All right, we are live. Hello everyone. Can people say hi in the chat so I know it's working? Oh. Anyway, if you can't hear me, say something, but say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're from, who you're with, what company you have. We have a great session today. It's with our great partner, Junk Removal Authority. So I'll give it another minute to have people continue to file in. But yeah, it'd be great to hear where everyone's from in the chat. And I see people are saying hi. Awesome. Bradley Scott says hi, Lee.
Hey there, Brad. What's going on, man? Hope everything's going good in Memphis.
All right. Well, yeah. So today we're kind of going to talk about the JRA journey and get into how to be the best in junk removal. I know we have a lot of junk removal pros in the audience today, so hopefully we can give you some tips and tricks to take and apply to your everyday.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
So just a high-level agenda before I get into introductions here. Briefly, we'll do some introductions. We'll then go into the story of the JRA journey and how Lee got there today. We'll go into some conversations about what we're seeing in the junk removal industry and kind of like what you guys can be doing to get ahead. And then we'll get into kind of an open discussion and Q&A session today. So I'm Wes. I'm one of the partnership managers here at Workies. I work closely with JRA all the time, and we love the partnership. I'll go ahead. You're probably not here for me, though, today, so I'll go ahead and pass it over to Lee so he can introduce himself.
Yeah, appreciate everybody joining this webinar today. So Wes mentioned we're going to kind of cover a little bit of my story, the junk doctor story, JRA story. We'll do that. It'll be just a small portion of this presentation to give you guys a little bit of a background if you don't know who I am, who JRA is, who Junk Doctors is. But then we're going to talk about junk removal, and we're going to cover some really good stuff. You guys will probably know some of it, but there's going to be some little nuggets of wisdom and some information we're going to cover that we hope you apply and really take advantage of and build up a great company.
Awesome. And again, thanks everyone for joining today, and Lee especially, thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate the invitation.
So to start, I kind of want to hear from Lee here. I want to hear the story of Junk Doctors. Can you tell me about how it started?
So I've always been pretty entrepreneurial, all the way back to high school. I mean, I've done businesses like I did a flyer delivery company where we had these door hanger flyers we hung on people's doors. Did that for a while. We washed vehicles. I've always been into flying and aviation, so I'd wash planes, and I'd try these like little things, and nothing ever really stuck all that well. Prior to Junk Doctors, I raced cars, which I've recently gotten back into, but I didn't really have the money to race them. So it was like NASCAR style, short track racing. I ran out of money. I was just working in a roller skating rink at that point, making like, I don't know, $8 or $10 an hour, something really, really low. And when I ran out of money, I sold off everything, but I was left with a pickup truck. And then my grandfather had this old trailer that was probably built in like in the 1950s, early 1960s, something like that. I mean, it was so vintage. But I had this pickup truck. My grandfather let me use a trailer. The truck, actually, I listed the truck for sale and it wouldn't sell. So I said, well, hey, I've got this truck and trailer. I wonder if we can kind of make a go at this thing. So at that time, just put up a Craigslist ad and some flyers out. And like that afternoon, a first call came in. We went off and did the job, just kind of figured stuff out as we went. We were way too cheap initially, but over time, we kind of figured out the pricing and what was we needed to charge and how to get jobs done on time and where to take the stuff and all like that. So in 2012, we incorporated, became Junk Doctors. We got our first junk removal truck. It was a used Got Junk truck. We bought in July of 2012 for $11,500. You will never find used trucks that cheap back then. That truck there's probably brought us in $1.5 million, $2 million in revenue over the years. We don't really use it very much anymore, but we still have it. Over time, build it up into what's now a 17 truck operation. We'll do a little over 3 million, 3.3, somewhere in there this year. And revenue is what we're projecting. We did about 3 last year. So we are projecting a little bit of growth, but not a ton this year with kind of some of the market conditions. But that's kind of the story of Junk Doctors. We're in Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro. And, we service 7,000 to 8,000 customers a year. just it's been a great ride so far.
It's an awesome story. I didn't know you raced cars though.
Yep. Yeah. I used to do it some. I just recently got back into it.
Do you ever race your junk trucks?
No, we were trying to avoid that. The graphics on the side of it are a little too large.
Yeah, probably some liability.
Probably get in trouble on that. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that background there. I'm going to go into the next slide here. How did you go from junk doctors to now JRA?
You know, initially when we started Junk Doctors, I think the plan was to franchise because you had Got Junk, College Hunks, Junk King. You know, those are the three. And then Junk Luggers started franchising about the time we started JRA, if not just after. And then there's probably actually a dozen other junk removal franchises out there that a few of them have sold a good number or a decent number, and a few of them have sold very, very few. When we built up to about $1 million a year, we started seriously considering franchising and looked into it. But the one thing I never really liked about franchising was it's not like you're going and starting a Chick-fil-A in junk removal. Like there's no name recognition in your local market for a junk removal company. So I felt like one of the largest advantages for buying a franchise is name recognition. Well, you don't really get that in junk removal. So what happens is a potential franchisee actually builds up that brand in their market. And it was our belief that, you know, that person should build up their own brand in their market and have 100% ownership in it and be able to operate how they want, expand how they want without all the restrictions and the long-term royalties and all that kind of stuff that come with the franchise. That being said, I recognize there were a lot of advantages to franchising. You know, we made 5 years of mistakes in building up Junk Doctors before we actually got pretty good at it. And when you go in with a franchise, you can avoid a lot of that. They tell you how to get customers. They tell you how to market. They tell you what you need to price. They tell you how to build your brand, who to network with, all that type of great information that, you know, remember back in 2012 or this would have been 2017 or 18, I guess, there was really none of that. There was 2 guys on YouTube at that point that had a few thousand followers each, one of which is still on YouTube and operating. The other is gone. He hasn't operated in years. And they gave out good information, but it was nothing like what was available kind of for free now. But so the information is very, very valuable, and having it presented in such a way that you can follow is very valuable. But giving that long-term royalty commitment and being restricted in how you operate is pretty tough. So we just decided, hey, let's see if we can come up with the main benefits of a franchise, which is the marketing support, the call center, and then obviously the consulting, the operating system, the manuals, video training, all like that. Let's sell that stuff kind of a la carte, and people can pick and choose what they want to use. They can use it for as long as they want. If they want to go into something else, they can. They're not locked in on this really long contract. And the best thing is they're building up their very own brand and their very own market. We felt like we could bring the professionalism of a franchise to somebody's own local brand where they have all the control. And frankly, especially long-term, they'll make quite a bit more money.
Yeah, it's a great story. And I think you guys provide a awesome alternative to franchising today. And you guys kind of do it all, I think.
Yeah, we cover the spectrum for the most part.
So when you're looking at, from a JRA perspective, what kind of junk pros do you work with? Is it everyone who's just kind of starting out, or do you help people scale? How do you determine like which customers you work with? So
initially, we don't work with a lot of the guys that were just like me. When we first started, like I wouldn't have been able to have worked with JRA immediately, but within a year or two, I would have wanted to been jumping on. The people that come to us, either one, they've got some prior income and all saved up, or prior assets saved up. They've got some, some net worth, some money. That way they can really put it towards it and have a high advertising budget and do a lot of the things that we talk about that do cost money that really, frankly, you're not going to be super profitable on initially, but it's going to accelerate your growth. So you're going to gain market share a lot faster. So the guys we work with, a lot of them, either they're brand new in business, they were looking into a franchise, they found us, they decided to go our route, so they've got some money, or they've been open for a year, maybe 2-3 years, and they've kind of scraped together a pretty decent business by doing some of the cheaper advertising methods out there. They've got, maybe $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 plus. We'd love seeing 10,000 plus, maybe 15 plus before you start working with us on marketing. That's kind of sitting there ready for marketing. And then they get going with us. And, it's our goal to help them improve their brand and, expand and grow and build it up into a $1 million plus year operation.
Awesome. I appreciate all of that. For everyone that's listening, please feel free to ask questions. There's a few ways to do that. You can ask it in the chat, or there's a question tab and we'll answer them throughout, or at the end. We'll take 5 minutes at the end to answer any questions you guys have about scaling your junk removal business, how JRA works, how we work, how we can help. So feel free to ask away.
And, Wes, I will say we've got some great people leaving comments in there. We've got Marina from Stars Junk, Nick with Speedy Junk in Tucson. We've got Eric from Beeline Hauling, and Lamont from JP's Junk Removal out of Las Vegas. Got some guys from North Carolina all too. So appreciate everybody for commenting and participating. Let us know your names and kind of where you're from. We'd love to hear from you.
Exactly. So, and we have someone from Canada too. Look at that.
That's awesome. Calgary. Fantastic. Yeah. Welcome, Jamie.
So when you're kind of in the weeds of a junk removal business, I think one of the things you like to talk about is having a future vision.
Yep.
When you frame that idea, what are some of the things in your future vision that you would kind of coach people on?
Well, the important thing with having a future vision is because you want to know, hey, this is what I'm working towards. And frankly, you're going to get, when you first start a company and you're running a business, sometimes you can get so locked into the minute little details and putting out fires and all the stuff that comes up on day to day, you lose sight of what that future vision is. And if you don't constantly think of it, if it's not defined, then you're just going to find yourself always putting out these fires. You're going to find yourself just trying to tread water to maintain, and growth is going to kind of disappear. So not only is setting a future vision important, but thinking about it and following it on a regular basis is important. And I recommend, if you do once a week, that's great, but at least once a month, once a quarter, I'd say once a quarter minimum. Once a month is pretty good. Once a week is fantastic. And some of the stuff that we want you to think about on this, number one, it's pure possibility. So don't get lost in the details that it's going to take to do it when you're putting your future vision together. We're going to figure those out later. But you want to sit there and imagine, how many trucks do I have? What do the trucks look like? How many employees do I have? What do our uniforms look like? What does our community kind of think about us? What does our warehouse look like? Like, get all these visual things and just imagine what this great company is going to look like that you're going to create in, say, a 5-year, maybe a 10-year time frame. The reason I love you thinking about what 5 years and 10 years in the future is you're committing yourself now for this to be a long-term deal. A lot of guys start in junk removal, and they treat it as a side hustle. I hate side hustles. I respect the grind, but I think people need to give up on doing side hustles and focus on their main hustle and build something up to be truly amazing. Having a future vision will help you stay on that path.
So to follow up on that, quick question. When a lot of people, when they're kind of starting out in the junk removal space, do look at it as a side hustle. At what point do you see a lot of the time it transitions to being their full-time job?
It's a very small portion of people that join junk removal that ever turn it into that. So I would say, and this is rough numbers, it's grown a lot in the last year. There's probably 10,000 junk removal companies of some sort that are out there. There's going to be more maybe guys that just haul stuff just on the side and don't really have much of a company name or anything, but there's close to 10,000 companies probably throughout the U.S. Of that, there's maybe 1,000 to 1,300 that are super professional. So these are the guys that are going to be doing a lot of the stuff that we talk about in terms of Google Ads and SEO, and they're working on having a great brand, and they've got employees and all that kind of stuff. The vast majority of guys are going to come and go. So what happens is junk removal is getting extremely competitive on especially on the bottom end. So when guys are coming in and they're not doing a lot of like the business stuff that we talk about, you're finding a lot of competition. Like if anybody's coming in and they're just competing on price, you've got tons of people that are now coming in and they're competing on price. You want to elevate yourself out of that just as quick as you can. And honestly, you almost want to avoid it, because once you start competing on price, it's hard to leave that. You're basically, everything you've done up to that point, other than make a little bit of income from a job, you can throw out the window, because all of your cheap customers, as soon as you raise your price, they're going to go down to the next cheapest person in line. You've got to build an amazing brand. in order to survive and to thrive. And you got to go to the places and advertise the places where your ideal customers are. And those are the people that care more about service than they do price. So it's a small number that actually ever make that, that transition from like me to building up kind of something greater.
Yeah. No, that's a great comment. And when you're talking about price specifically, how do you know when you're pricing yourself too low?
So, well, there's a few ways you can know if you're pricing yourself too low. One of the best ways is if you're using a CRM such as WorkEase, you go in and you look at your job completion percentage or cancellation rate. And in junk removal, you want that number to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 90%, 90, 92, maybe 93. If you start seeing cancellation or job completion rates that go above 94%, then that means one of the things it might mean is your pricing is actually set too low. So if you're completing 98, 99% of your jobs, raise up your rates. Raise your rates up, give it a month. If you're still that same percentage, raise your rates up some more. Keep kind of bumping those rates up until all of a sudden that job completion percentage comes on down to 90, 92. That's one way. The other way is, hey, pick up the phone, call your competitors, find out what they're charging. Got Junk is always the benchmark. So you give them a call, you say, hey, I'm out of town. My sister's in your area. I've used your company before. I've got like 2 full truckloads here. I need to let her know what it's going to cost. What's it going, what does that run? They're initially never going to want to give you the price. None of your competitors generally are. But if you just stick to that story, you'll normally get a good price out of them. And then you can say, hey, I'm in the ballpark or not.
Awesome. We got a question from Taylor in the chat. How do you transition from running a very lean profits during the initial marketing push to practicing profitability consistently so you can build legacy?
So Taylor, we normally want you to commit about 2 years to focus, do your very best to focus on growing that top line and market share as much as possible. Now, you still should be profitable through those 2 years. After the first handful of months, 3 to 6 months, you should be cash flow positive, but you're probably not making a ton of money. If you're on the truck, you should be able to make at least as much as you would have to pay another truck team member to get out there and get on the truck. So the first 2 years, maybe up to 3, focus on your top line, market share, and all like that. Then after that time frame, that's when you're going to want to try and bring down a lot. The main thing is your advertising expense. So all of your other expenses you should be watching regularly. You should have QuickBooks and a profit and loss set up where hey, what's my disposal percentage and payroll percentage? Those are generally your 2 big ones, fuel percentage and all like that. And you need to constantly make sure that stuff is where it needs to be. And you need to do things for your disposal rates, try and reduce the amount that you have to dump in a landfill, recycling and donating and reselling and all that kind of stuff. If you set up those programs, kind of divert things from the landfill, that's going to help out your disposal fees. So you should be on top of everything in terms of keeping that within a reasonable level when you first get started. Your payroll might be a little bit higher simply because you need a certain number of people to make sure you can do same and next day bookings, because if you can't get same and next day bookings, you're not going to get customers in. If you don't get customers in, they're not going to reuse you. They're not going to refer you to others. They're not going to lead online reviews. So to answer your question, a lot of it is you're doing this stuff all along, but as you get more volume in, then the numbers, your overhead percentage goes down, your payroll comes down, and all of a sudden you start making more money. So you need to always pay attention to your numbers. If you get to a point 2-3 years into it where your advertising percentage is still really high, let's say 20% plus, we'd love to see around 15 by year 3, unless you're doing like radio or TV or something, then it might be higher. Then, you got to start cutting stuff out and being kind of more efficient. It's all around knowing those numbers.
That's a good segment to the next slide, actually. And I see a few more questions. We'll get to those in a minute, but it's a great transition to the next slide because we're going to talk about knowing your numbers a little bit more. And we're going to get into a discussion on the key, I would say key aspects to becoming the best in junk removal, or how to be the best in your area, at least. So we identified, as we were thinking about how to frame the topic of today's webinar and discussion, we identified some key foundational aspects to become the best in your area and become the best at scaling up your operation. So I guess to start, number one, operational success. What are some hallmarks of a junk removal business that is practicing operational success?
Or, operational with operational excellence. In terms of a hallmark, it starts out, the first thing is visual. Like if you don't have uniforms, clean trucks, uniform, team members in uniforms, and they stick to the uniform policy and all like that, then that's the first thing a customer sees of your individual business. And that's also something that's easy over time to let lax. So you need to be on top of, hey, if your truck gets scuffed or scratched or whatever, go ahead and hit it with some touch-up paint, keep them clean, because when you let little things like that go, then more things start happening. And before you know, your standards have kind of fallen, and your employees are picking up on if you're letting little things go yourself. So you want to make sure you stay on top of kind of the little stuff. And that's one of the first things to do. Make sure the appearance is right and all like that. Hey, sales and customer service, you should be role playing and training your team every single week on how best to close jobs, how best to handle objections, how to best quote jobs, customer service, how to greet people properly. Like we even script out when we first show up to the job site, hey, how do you properly shake somebody's hand? That has come back in style. For COVID, we eliminated it, but people are now shaking hands again. So we really pay attention to those details, all about everything on site. Because if you handle the stuff on site right, then that's when people are going to reuse you, refer you, and leave those online reviews. The other thing is routine vehicle maintenance. Downtime kills you in this business. So you need to make sure you're doing all of your routine vehicle maintenance. You've got a way of tracking that. That way your trucks are up when you need them. And if you guys are slow, that's the best possible time. As soon as you get in a slow season or you have a random slow week, get those trucks down, get them worked on. Always stay busy during the slow parts of the business by generating more work or preparing your equipment and your people for, the time ahead by training them and kind of maintaining them. So those are some of the main things that we really want to look at. And also, obviously, just answering the phone calls and knowing how to handle those calls. A lot of people don't answer the phone. They're busy. I get it, but drop whatever you're doing to answer that phone call, as long as it's not a huge piece of furniture you're going down the stairs with or whatever like that. Like if all humanly possible, drop what you're doing, take that call, because it's so important.
I agree. Answering the phone calls, I mean, a missed call is a missed job potentially. So every call should be answered. Now, when it comes to marketing, how much should someone be spending in advertising? And then what kind of channels should they be investing in? And this can also include like repeat customers, I would assume. But if you could talk a little bit about what these companies should be doing on the marketing front, that would be great. Yeah.
So, it all starts initially when you first set your company up, or if you didn't do it when you first set your company up, really focus in on the logo. I am seeing more and more people going to like 99 Designs for logos, and they're giving them, honestly, there's a lot of plagiarism on logos going on. You're starting to see a lot of logos that look pretty similar because everybody's going to these 99 Designs and they're getting a $200, $100, $200 logo or whatever. Like, go and get a good logo. Think through your colors that you're going to do. Think through your brand. Plan out your vehicle graphics. Like, pay attention to all of those details, because over time, we're going to want you to really be able to be remembered as to who you are, so you're not getting confused with the competition in your market. So it starts with a great brand. Once you have that brand established, your website's a huge piece of that. That's where the majority of your customers are going to come from, or a large majority of them anyway. Obviously, pay-per-click, it is expensive, but there are excellent customers to be had there when you're trying to grow this great snowball and this great business. A well-run Google Ads PPC campaign is excellent. We will be releasing, if you guys follow us on YouTube and Facebook, we are actually going to be doing a course on managing Google Ads and PPC coming up soon, led by our senior ads analyst and director here at Google Ads for JRA. So that's a great way of showing you kind of some of the things you can do to really manage a great campaign. And, if you want to work with an agency, you can. By going through that course, you're really going to be able to tell, hey, these are the numbers I need to pay attention to if I'm working with another campaign, or if I'm working with a company. So SEO, it's very much long-term, but there's, 50% of traffic still skips ads and they go down to your organic listings. A lot of your SEO that you need to pay attention to now is going to be your Google My Business, or it's called Google Business Profile now. So your map pack is also what it's called. So that's like your listings in the map where it's got the star ratings. People love that. They look at it often, and there's certain things you can do on getting your ranking up on your map listing, like making sure you respond to all the reviews, trying to get customers to actually post pictures themselves. If you can incentivize your customers to post a picture, Google loves that. It gives it a little bit of extra juice. It's also great when they post from their home or wherever it is you're advertising, because those images are geotagged. It tells Google, hey, you actually are servicing the areas that you're at. So do a little bit of research on what you can do, because a lot of it's not on the SEO agency. A lot of it's actually on the business owner for all your Google My Business listings and getting them to appear well. It's being active on that. Email marketing out to realtors, property managers, professional organizers. Also, hey, just knocking on doors, picking up the phone, calling people is excellent. Furniture stores, a lot of furniture stores get asked, hey, how do I get rid of stuff? Because they don't take it. Hey, you be there to take advantage of it. Nextdoor.com is excellent. Participating on social media. Facebook ads can work. They're not extremely effective sometimes. In certain markets, they are. So there's a lot of things to do out there. Yard signs. I didn't mention that. Yard signs are huge. We mentioned branding. Have a great yard sign. Blanket your area with them. People are going to remember your signs. We get comments all the time. Hey, I see your signs everywhere. And that's exactly what you want. Some other quick little tips. I have a million of these things, so I know we can't go but so long. But go into apartment complexes and townhome communities and stuff like that have dumpster enclosures. Go into them and say, hey, I've got these signs, these metal signs or whatever I can hang up in your enclosure that basically say, hey, don't dump stuff here. You're not supposed to. You're under surveillance or whatever. Instead, call junk doctors or call whoever. And you put those up and you say, hey, there's no cost to it. And I'll even go and I'll mount it up. It's that can be a very effective way to generate business. When people are going and they're tossing stuff in the dumpster, they'll see the sign, they'll know who you are, and they'll see that every couple of days. Normally, most people are carrying out their trash every day or two. So it's a great way of building your brand.
Yeah. And one thing I will add on to, just in my perspective, what you're saying on the marketing front here, and it's a transition into the next bullet point, which is know your numbers. Through Workies, you can actually tie any phone number back to an ad source. So like if you're doing yard signs, for example, or you have PPC campaigns, you're doing Nextdoor, you can tie different numbers there. So you do know your numbers. But outside of that piece, like what are some other things that junk removal companies should be looking for when they're doing their bookkeeping, for example?
Well, some of it's on bookkeeping, is on your bookkeeping. That's where it all starts. And we talk with business owners all the time that are busy. And I talked to a guy yesterday who the last time he updated his books was like 6 months ago. So somebody needs to be in there monthly, reconciling your bank cards and your credit card statements and giving you a P&L balance sheet and a statement of cash flows. That's where it starts, and that's very simple. Now, on my case, like Christian and myself, Christian's my business partner with Junk Doctors. He runs it. We every single day we're knowing, hey, what were our sales today or yesterday? What's the number of phone calls we got? What was the booking percentage we got? Like we've got this dashboard, and Workies does a great job with this. We've got this dashboard that gives us all that information, and we're paying attention to it. The other things we pay attention to sales per payroll hour. So we take a look at the total number of payroll hours that we have, and we want to generate a certain amount of sales per each individual payroll hour for the truck teams. And that's something that we report on a board in our office. We have all that data available that we meet with our team every single day. We're obviously looking at closing percentages. We mentioned that before. Guys submit end of job pictures. So we're sitting there and we're comparing an end of job picture to what was quoted, just to kind of get an idea of that. And an average job sale is one of the most important numbers that you should really pay attention to, because AJS is the difference between being profitable and being able to do expensive advertising like Google Ads and not. So AJS is so important. And alongside AJS is allowable acquisition cost. So with allowable acquisition cost, take all the expenses it takes you to perform a job, whatever's left over. So that would be considered like the profit. That amount, though, is how much you could spend on one single job and break even. That's your allowable acquisition cost. And you want the amount it actually costs you to get that job to be less than what your allowable acquisition cost is. And that means you're going to be profitable. If it goes the other way around, you're in trouble unless you have a lot of cash that's built up, because you're going to start draining through your cash. So those are just some of the numbers we pay attention to consistently.
And then when it comes to what you call capacity planning, how do you stay ahead of capacity?
That's, the easiest thing to do is set you up a spreadsheet and import in all of your sales that comes into the spreadsheet. And we've actually got a tool at JRA that does this, but we're doing some tweaks to it right now. So I thought about not even mentioning it, but the easiest thing you can do at the moment, set up a basic spreadsheet, place the total number of people that you have in there, and you're going to place the amount of sales you're getting. And you want to look at trends. What's the percentage increase that I'm getting month over month, or this, year over year? And basically, when you get to about averaging about an extra $25,000 to $30,000 in monthly income, you want to add another truck. And a rough figure for people is you're going to need one truck team member for about every $10,000 or so of revenue. So if you use those numbers, you put it on a spreadsheet, and you kind of project out what path you're on, that's how you're going to get ahead of capacity. And we build junk removal trucks. So if you want to get a truck from us, I think right now, and I swear at some point we're going to get this lower, but right now it's like a 10-week turnaround time. So you want to make sure, hey, I'm 3 months ahead of needing a truck. I order a truck about 3 months before I actually need it. One thing to keep in mind is at some point here it's normally started by now, but busy season hasn't quite kicked off. Now, don't get too worried, because I've been through Marches where busy season didn't start until April. But at some point, busy season is going to kick in, and you're very worried through winter. So you won't order a truck, but all of a sudden, come April, May, when you get super busy, you're going to need a truck. Well, you've got 10 weeks to wait to actually get a truck. So that's why it's important to go ahead and be looking to add that next vehicle in. And same thing for people. Recently, we haven't been hiring a ton of people for junk doctors right yet. We're getting ready to. We've been interviewing people now, kind of anticipating the ramp up for busy season. And luckily, we're at a point now we have very low employee turnover. So we don't have to hire a ton of people. We basically just have to hire to kind of keep up with growth. But, when we want to hire somebody, it's going to cost us $1,000 in job ads to find one person. We're going to do a lot of interviews, and it's going to spend a lot of time just because it's so hard to find people. So you want to make sure that you're giving probably 4 to 6 weeks to find one person. That's why it's so important to have that spreadsheet and really plan ahead your capacity.
Awesome. So I know we have a bunch of questions here that have been asked in the chat. We're going to take maybe like 5 minutes or so, ask the questions that have been coming up. So let me scroll up to see some of these questions. When it comes to the current economy, William Pierce asked this a while ago. When it comes to the current economy, when you look at rising inflation, bank runs, increased potential. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through this. Have you put into place for junk doctors any related marketing budgets or asset purchases as a result of the economy?
I don't think, and by the way, everybody, this is William Pierce, Get My Junk out of Richmond, Virginia. I encourage all you guys to head over to his website, check him out. It'll help him out a little bit on SEO, but you kind of see what he's doing. He's a real smart operator out of Richmond. But, Bill, right now, nobody really knows what's going to happen with this economy. And that uncertainty is causing people to pause on certain purchases and spending and all. And I think it's wise to do that. Unfortunately, if all of us business owners do that, we're going to create a recession just because of our concern. It'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy, but that's what you've got to do. So what we're doing at Junk Doctors, and we've always watched very closely, are advertising spend. We found this little weird thing, and this happened with Junk Doctors as well as other companies about a month ago. I think everybody must have raised their bids on Google Ads, and it got really expensive. So for the first time in forever, we actually lowered our budget on Junk Doctors because we were churning through so much cash, and we spend like $1,200 a day on Google Ads. We spend insane amount of money. I think we almost cut that in half, and we did that just to allow it to cool down because we knew, hey, people aren't going to continue spending this amount for a long period of time. So we lowered it down. Sure enough, it got a little less competitive. Our cost per conversions got back where they needed to, and we kind of raised it up just because we want to protect that cash. In terms of buying vehicles right now, we might look at purchasing a vehicle at the end of the year just for some tax benefits. We've got 17 vehicles right now. When it gets super busy, we might run 13 of them, really busy days, your Mondays and Saturdays in the middle of busy season or something like that. So we've got like 4 backup trucks. We're probably just going to since we got those backups and they're older and all, but we're probably just going to use those older trucks rather than buying another vehicle until we feel a bit more certain towards the end of the year that things are shaping out okay. internally, we're just trying to make sure we're as efficient as we possibly are. We're diverting as much as we can from the landfill. We're combining as many jobs as we can. We're training our team to make sure they're closing as many jobs as they can, both on the phone as well as on site. So basically, it's all the stuff that you should have been doing all along, and we're just being super, super thorough in making sure that we convey to our team how important it is to do all these little details. Yard signs, we have recommitted to yard signs like never before. We're blanketing. We redesigned it. It looks kind of cool. We're blanketing our entire area in yard signs as much as we possibly can. So we're doing all those things you're always supposed to be doing, and we're just kind of desperate making sure we continue to do them because, you know, you're a little worried, and you should be. As a business owner, it's beneficial for all of us if we all stay a little bit worried, because when you're a little bit worried, that's when you work hard and you work smart and you do the right things. But we must make sure that that worry doesn't keep us from growing. So the crazy thing is you actually want to try and outgrow the recession. So if you're a new business and all, unlike Junk Doctor's been open like 12 years, you still might want to be looking at buying trucks and doing the advertising and all. And it's going to scare the hell out of you. But if you don't do that, then you know you're not going to outgrow this recession. You could be swept down and swept under.
So another question that just came in, and well, maybe this will be the last one. Maybe we'll try to get one more in after. But Marina just asked, first of all, congratulations. Her company is doing an amazing job for the last 5 years, but she just wanted to know if you had any ideas for different ways of advertising and expanding the company.
I've got so many we wouldn't have time for, but I'll mention a few things that I see a lot of people that normally don't do. And a lot of it's just the old fashioned stuff. So if you're doing all the digital stuff, which you probably are, if you've been open 5 years would be my guess, but NAPO, reach out to professional organizers in your area, you know, realtors, sending email campaigns to realtors, short little like 2 or 3 sentence emails talking about kind of the service you can provide is very, very effective. I would highly encourage that. Marina, I'm going to make a guess. You know, it's a female owned business, or you might be with JP's. I'm not sure, out of Vegas, but you know, if you are a female owned business or whatever, the majority of realtors are females. So that is and professional organizers too, like 95% of them. So really kind of hit that. The fact you're female and what's generally perceived to be a male business is an excellent, excellent selling point. And you should put that on your website and everywhere else. I mentioned the dumpster signs, going to apartment complexes and getting those dumpster signs up, hugely important. So texting clients, text campaigns every so often to clients to remind you, past clients or past customers, I mean, to remind you you're in business or whatever. A lot of times what we do is we tell people, hey, we're in your area. We're going to be in your area on so-and-so day. Since we're going to be in your area, we can offer you $50 off your junk removal pickup. Those are actually pretty effective. So doing a system like that is something that we highly encourage.
All right. So the last question I'm going to ask you here was from Joel. And maybe there is one more that flows in, but do you reduce the number of employees in the winter?
I don't know if we've ever done that, but hours definitely go down. So we start warning people come about September saying, hey, you know, you guys have been working 40 hours a week. A lot of these guys get overtime during busy season. It's especially here recently where it's been hard to find people. So they've been making all this great money. They're getting all these great tips. And we do our very best to say, hey, you get paid on Friday. Don't go spend everything Friday night, Saturday, whatever. Put some money to the side. That way you guys aren't feeling the pressure come winter. We found a lot of them really enjoyed that little bit of reduced workload in the winter. It's like they catch their breath before the next season comes around. The other thing though is we up the amount of yard signs we put out. So we pay people, you know, our payroll percentage always goes up. We normally actually lose a little bit of money in January and February because we do want to get guys at least a certain number of hours so they don't leave, because we need them here come the spring and in summer months.
And then the cost of hiring someone is expensive too.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, minimum $1,000 to hire somebody. I mean, at times I think we were spending almost $3,000 to find somebody. But there's one nice thing that's happened COVID and post. Tips have actually gone up for this type of work, and we've seen that maintain. You know, tips are better than pre-pandemic. Some of our senior guys now, our senior guys that are on the truck, some of them are making $21, $22 an hour plus tips. I mean, I think we had somebody between overtime and pay and tips last year made almost $60,000 on a truck. So, I mean, some of these guys are making pretty good money.
Yeah. And by the way, Workies just has a new feature out on Workies Pay, so you can get tips in the field for your technicians and stuff. So it's a brand new feature we have.
Very good.
All right. And so as we close out today, first of all, thank you, Lee, for joining us. And thank you all for joining the chat in the webinar today. This recording will be available on your link for forever. And we'll also send it out in a summary email. But for those of you that joined today, we do have a special offer on the Worky side and on the JRA side, actually. On the Worky side, if you are not an existing customer of ours, if you do book a demo, we have a special offer. I'm teasing it out on purpose because you have to book the demo to find out. And then from the JRA side, I don't know if you want to kind of talk about it, Lee.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to come and join us on, if there's availability in your market for our marketing bundle package, so that's SEO, website, and Google Ads, it's normally $2,000 a month. We are offering $500 off for the first month if if you sign up through, I guess, the link that's going to get sent out here. And we'd love to talk to everybody and just kind of see what you got going on, see if we're a good fit at the present moment, and got a nice little discount to go along with it.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Lee, for joining today. And thanks, everyone, for asking a lot of great questions and listening today.
Perfect. Well, guys, yeah, thanks for joining. I've enjoyed it. Thanks, Wesley, for hosting.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'll stick around in the chat if you guys have any last questions, but I'm going to end the event and then, yeah, I'll be in the chat. But thanks, everyone.
See you guys.